For lesson 5.5b, we're going to continue multiplying fractions and mixed numbers. But today we're going to be doing the book assignment, so there will be more word problems. We're going to get a little bit more practice with word problems where we're multiplying fractions and mixed numbers. So to get started with 1/4 of 2/3, the key word here is of. Of tells us we're going to multiply. So whenever we're doing 1/4 of 2/3, just set up a multiplication problem. Then we do the same thing we did yesterday. We can simplify the 1 and the 4 to be 2 and a 1, and then we can multiply straight across. So trying to show my steps here in different colors with the answer of 1/6, and I can't simplify that any further, so that's my final answer. So again, copying this, 3/5 of, so we're multiplying 1/6. Again, let's go ahead and simplify. The 3 goes to a 1, the 6 comes to a 2 because we're dividing by 3. Then we can multiply straight across. And for our final answer, 1 times 1 is 1, and 4 times 2 is 8. So we get 1/8. That can't be simplified any further. So again, the key word here is of. Whenever you see of, we think multiply. So Jamal filled his gas tank and then used 7/16 of the tank for traveling to visit his grandfather. He then used 1/3 of the remaining gas in the tank to run errands around town. So what fraction of the tank is filled with gasoline? So Jamal filled his gas tank, then used 7/16 of the tank. So right here, since we're saying of the tank, we want to know what fraction of the tank is filled with gasoline. So we want to know what is still left. So really, since we're subtracting 7/16, because you think about it, when he fills the gas tank, we have like a whole gas tank. That's like 1. And now we're using 7/16, so minus 7/16. So actually, we're going to do a problem here, a little bit of review. So we have 1 minus 7/16. And so I need to get this into a common denominator. So I'm going to do 16/16 minus 7/16. And then we're going to do 16 minus 7 all over 16, which gives me 9/16. So as you can imagine, we have just over a half a tank left. So I have 9/16 left after this initial 7/16 is used to visit his grandfather. Then he used 1/3 of the remaining gas. The 9/16 is the remaining gas, so we're going to go 1/3 of the remaining gas. Okay, so 1/3 of the 9/16 to run errands around town. So, and you got to remember, that's how much we're using. That's how much we're using. So in actuality, you might want to think about the fact that this 9/16, that's almost like a whole. And one whole is what is left right now. And we're actually subtracting 1/3. Okay, and so 1 minus 1/3, well, I could say 3/3 minus 1/3 gives me 2/3. So really, because I want to know how much is filled in the end, I don't want to know how much is used. So instead of multiplying by 1/3, let's actually find out what is 2/3 of 9/16. So that way I'll actually know how much is left. Because out of this one whole, thinking 9/16 is one whole, 1 minus 1/3 gives me 2/3. So I'm going to use 1/3 of the remaining gas, which means I have 2/3 of the remaining gas left. And I want to know how much is filled. So 2/3 is still filled in here. So I'm going to simplify this 2, change to a 1. The 16 goes to an 8. The 3 goes to a 1. The 9 goes to a 3. And now we're going to multiply straight across. And so I'm going to have 3/8. So 3/8 of the total tank is left. And you think about it, we had just over a half a tank left, and then we only used a third of that, so like a third of the half. So now we're under a half. 4/8 would be a half. So 3/8 of the tank is filled. So that's a pretty complex problem there. Kind of difficult to work out because we actually had to subtract 2 different times and then multiply. If you wouldn't have subtracted here, you would have done 1/3 times 9/16, and you would have got an answer, and then you would have subtracted that from 9/16. So we just did it here is a little bit easier. For example 3, biking in a 48-hour bike race, Mel rode 289 1/3 miles. His father rode 3/4 as much as Mel did. So find the number of miles his father rode. So this would be like 1 hole for Mel. Mel rode 289 1/3 miles. So I want to find 3/4 of 289 1/3 miles. So 3/4 of this whole thing. So we know first thing we need to do is we need to get this into a improper fraction. So 289 times 3. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get my calculator out for that. 289 times 3 gives us 867. So that's what I need to add, 867 to 1 plus 867. So now I'm going to rewrite it 3/4 times 868, because I still had this 1, so I had to add it, all divided by 3. Now the nice thing here is the 3's are going to cancel, they'll go to 1's. I'm going to check on 868 to see if it's divisible by 4. Let's go 868 divided by 4, and that is actually divisible by 4. I get 217. So we can make that one a little bit smaller. Let's change 868 into 217, and we'll change the 4 to a 1. And now when we multiply straight across, I get 217, and 1 times 1, so I get a 1 there. So 217 miles. So his father rode 3/4 as much as Mel did. So Mel rode 289 1/3 miles. He rode 3/4 as far, so he rode 217 miles, which obviously we know is going to be a little bit less than his son. So a road trip. On the second day of a road trip, the Smith family drove 2/3 as far as they had driven on the first day. So find the number of miles the Smith family drove on the second day if they drove 316 5/6 miles on day 1. So we need to find 2/3 of day 1, and day 1 is 316 5/6 of a mile. So again, I need to change this into a improper fraction, so I need to multiply there and then add whatever I get. So 316 times 6, let's go ahead with 316 times 6, and I get 1896. So let's add that 1896. So let's rewrite the whole thing, 2/3 times, this is actually going to be 1,900, because if we add 5 right here, we actually get 11, okay, and that's going to be a 0 and a 1, and that's going to be a 9 and a 1. So 1,901 divided by 6. So again, let's do some simplifying here. Change this to 1, change this to a 3 because we're dividing by 3. Let's check to see if this is divisible by 3. 1 plus 9 is 10, plus 1 is 11. So I know that's not divisible by 3, so let's go ahead and multiply. And so I'm going to get 1901, and 3 times 3 is 9. All right, so how do I figure out how many whole there are? Well, let's do a little calculating. So we take 1901 and we divide by 9. Okay, so I'm going to get 211.2 repeating. So again, right over here, I'm going to do some work here. 1901 divided by 9 equals, and let's look back at what we had, 211.2 repeating. So I'm going to write that, 211.2 repeating. So I know it's not exact because we knew it wasn't divisible by 3 or 9. But 211 is going to be my whole. So I need to figure out what is 9 times 211, because that's how much I'm going to subtract. So 9 times 211 gives me 1899. So right here I'm going to get 1899, and I'm going to circle that also because that's what I'm going to subtract right here is 1899. Okay, and that's going to leave me with 2 left over. So my whole is going to be 211, and I made 211 with this 1899 because that's what 211 times 9 is 1899. So that's what I subtracted. So there's my 211. I have 2 extra out of 9. So 211 and 2/9 is the same as 211.2 repeating. I can check that if I want by going 2 divided by 9, and that equals 0.2 repeating, so that would be the same. So that's another way here of getting around that. And we actually had some of those types of problems at the end of our worksheet last time. All right, for our next example, Roberta canned 32 quarts of her prize-winning apricot jam. She sold 5/8 of them at the street fair. So find the number of quarts she sold. So we want to find 5/8 of 32. So 5/8 of 32, and I'm going to write 32 as a fraction, so 32 over 1. I can simplify the 8 down to a 1, and 32 divided by 8 is 4. And then if we multiply across, I'm going to get 20 over 1, and so that equals 20 quarts. And that's my answer. So she made 32. She sold just over half of them. Well, we know that half is half of 32 would be 16, so 20 does work. For example 6 here, Bob had 108 decorative stones he purchased to build a walkway. When the walkway is complete, Bob has used 7/9 of the stones. Find the number of stones Bob used on the walkway. So we want the number of stones Bob used. If we wanted to know how many were left, then I would multiply by 2/9 because that's how much is left. But we want to know how many we used. So let's use that 7/9 times 108, but I want to go 108 over 1. Let's check to see if this is divisible by 9. 1 plus 8 is 9, so I know that 108 is divisible by 9. So let's go ahead and use our calculators to figure out what that is. So 108 divided by 9 is going to give us 12. So when we simplify the 9 to 1, 108 is going to turn into 12. And then we can multiply straight across, and we're going to get a nice whole number here. So it's going to be 1 on the bottom, and 7 times 12. Well, again, if you want to jump to your calculator, you can do that. So 7 times 12 gives us 84. And it's 84 over 1, so you can write that as 84 stones. And that would be our final answer. So he almost used all of them, 7/9, that's close to a whole. So 84, yeah, 84 is pretty close to 108. So we can say that we're pretty much good there. That's actually our last example for today's lesson. You're going to have some more review of the types of problems we did yesterday where they're not word problems. But in the homework that you're going to see tonight, you will see more word problems. So just keep in mind that these words of means to multiply. And make sure you're checking to find out what they want to know. Like this one, they want to know how many he used. Well, the word used matches. If it says how many were left, then we'd want to use 2/9 rather than 7/9. Or you could find out that he used 84 and subtract, we could do 108 minus 84, and we could find out that there are 24 stones left. Again, there's 2 different answers, and they both are right answers, but what does the question want to know? The question wants to know how many he used. So be sure to check some more of the tutors online if you want some more practice with this. And also be sure to check with the step-by-step homework helper for all the odd problems.